Hi, welcome to my series on the fall of Anne Boleyn, which of course took place in the year 1536. Now on this day in 1536, the 2nd of May, Queen Anne Boleyn was at Greenwich Palace. She is said by some to have been watching a match of real or royal tennis when she was disturbed by a messenger bringing her a message that she needed to go and present herself before the King's Council in the council chamber at the palace. She duly went to the council chamber, and there she met with the council, who were presided over by her maternal uncle, Thomas Howard, 3rd Duke of Norfolk. They informed the Queen that she was accused of committing adultery with 3 different men: court musician Mark Smeaton, groom of the stool and a good friend of Henry VIII, Sir Henry Norris, and one other man who they did not name at this time. The council then informed the Queen that Norris and Smeaton had both confessed to this. Queen Anne Boleyn was very, very shocked. She denied the charges, denied them profusely, but her words seemed to fall on deaf ears. She later described how she was cruelly handled as was never seen at this meeting, and that as she spoke, her uncle just sat there shaking his head and going tut, tut, tut. She also said that Sir William Fitzwilliam didn't seem interested in the proceedings at all and ignored her, choosing to daydream instead. Following them explaining these charges, the Queen's arrest was ordered, but Anne was allowed back to her royal apartments to prepare herself, to dress herself for her journey to the Tower of London, because they had to wait for the tide of the Thames to turn. The River Thames in London is a tidal river, and it was far easier to wait for the tide to turn rather than to row against the tide, which took a long time and was also very dangerous. By 2 p.m, the tide of the Thames had turned, allowing them to escort the Queen by barge to the Tower of London. According to Eustace Chapuis, the Imperial Ambassador, in the barge with the Queen were her uncle and the Lord Chamberlains, John de Vere, Earl of Oxford, and William Sandys, 1st Baron Sandys. However, Charles Risley in his chronicle begs to differ. He says that Anne was accompanied by her uncle, but by Lord Chancellor Audley, Thomas Cromwell, and Sir William Kingston, who was Constable of the Tower of London at the time. They arrived at Tower Wharf at about 5 p.m, and Anne entered the tower by the court gate of the Byward Tower, not Traitor's Gate, as is often pointed out at the tower. Risley records that she fell down on her knees before the said lords, beseeching God to help her, as she was not guilty of her accusements. Sir William Kingston then led Queen Anne to the Queen's apartments in the Royal Palace at the Tower, rather than to any dungeons. These were the same apartments that had been refurbished for her use in the days before her coronation in 1533, so just 3 years earlier. These royal apartments were to be her prison. Kingston recorded Anne's reaction. She said, "It is too good for me. Jesus, have mercy on me." And then she knelt, weeping a good pace, and in the same sorrow fell into great laughing. So she was hysterical. She was going from sobbing to laughing. She just didn't know what to make of any of this. She then asked if Kingston would ask the king to make sure that she had the Holy Sacrament in her chamber so that she might pray for mercy. "For I am as clear from the company of man as for sin as I am clear from you, and am the king's true wedded wife." Kingston also records that she asked him, "Shall I die without justice?" And that when he replied, "Well, the poorest subject the king hath justice," she laughed. Anne knew that there was no justice now for her. Also on this day, the 2nd of May 1536, Anne's brother, George Boleyn, Lord Rochford, was arrested at Whitehall. Chapuis records that George was arrested for not giving information of her crime. But, of course, George would not be charged with that. He would go on to be charged with committing incest with his sister, the Queen, and also plotting with her to kill the king. And another event happened on this day in 1536. King Henry VIII went to see his illegitimate son, Henry Fitzroy, Duke of Richmond and Somerset, and, according to Chapuis, told him that he and his half-sister Mary should thank God for having escaped from the hands of that woman, i.e. Anne Boleyn, who had planned their death by poison. Now, of course, there is no evidence that Anne did attempt to poison Fitzroy or Mary, or that she planned it or even thought of it. And she certainly wasn't charged with it. So this seems to have been bluster from King Henry VIII. So a jam-packed day at the Tudor court, at Greenwich Palace and also at Whitehall and at the Tower of London as more prisoners arrived at the Tower. I do hope you're enjoying these. They're awfully sad when you think that these people are not just characters from something like Game of Thrones, that they are real people we're talking about. And I do hope that my videos are giving you a sense of just how quickly things moved against Queen Anne. I will be back tomorrow with another event for the fall of Anne Boleyn, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Bye.